It's time for Reason.
These are the ones that are trying to get illegal aliens to be able to vote in our elections. This is the party trying to get people who are actually incarcerated at the time to actually vote. This is the same party that doesn't want voter ID laws, and now they're saying, the county's missed it by a day. Sorry, you can't get those voted. You got to be removed off the ballots. So you want them to be able to vote. You just don't want them to be able to sign a petition to get one of your opponents on the ballot as a candidate.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, the day we've been looking forward to all week long. It is a Friday, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. You know, this is the trouble with this whole, cold thing. I was feeling relatively decent yesterday, back downhill again today. It's kind of an up and down sort of thing, so bear with me today. My voice is slowly but surely getting there. It's all right. It is a Friday. It doesn't matter. We've been making it through this entire week. We're patriotic Americans. We'll get through this week as well, or today as well. It's a Friday. Come on. Meaning that it's a Friday. It's also a free-for-all Friday. Whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you, it does not matter. Let's do our thing today with what's on your mind today. Come on. Let's do it. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, I want to hear from you today. We have a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. I know it's a Friday, and I don't want to spend too much time on crazy hard politics, but at the same time, it is kind of important news today. There's kind of some big stuff going on. So, shocker, breaking news of the day today, which, of course, you're not going to hear anywhere else. Big news. I know it's breaking, and it shook up the entire landscape of the governor's field. Greg Orman is officially on the ballot for the November run. Shocker! I know. He turned in his stuff on time. He actually did what he was supposed to do. He got the number of signatures he needed. He did what he was supposed to do. And because of the government's fault of delaying the processing of his petition for a day, then that's not his fault, and he's going to be on the ballot. I know. It's a crazy, shocking thing, right? With most of the objection to his petition signatures overruled, Greg Orman will remain on the November ballot as an independent candidate for governor of the state of Kansas. The state objections board met all day on Thursday to consider concerns raised about the validity of some of the signatures and how they were gathered. 3,913 that were collected by individuals from our state and which have no verified residential address, which is a significant issue, according to Senate Minority Leader Matthew Hennessey's chief of staff. Really? That's an issue. I thought, again, that this was the party in the side that just said, yeah, you know what, just show up and vote. It doesn't really matter. So you can vote, you just can't actually cast your signature on a petition. State election officials said Orman had about 7,700 valid signatures on the petition he submitted, well over the 5,000 required. So we're going to throw a fit about, 3,900, of course, just under the number that could potentially affect him. As Thursday's meeting was winding down, the objection board only thrown out about 330 of them because the person who gathered them was a known felon. Well, I mean, we don't want felons to vote, do we? Except for if we're Democrats and they're voting for Democrats. Orman, a Kansas City business area man, is challenging Democrat Laura Kelly and Republican Chris Kobach. Democrats launched the legal challenge to Orman's petition, a reaction that contrasts sharply with their embrace of him during the U.S. Senate run in 2014. His campaign garnered national attention in that race. So he's official. He is on the ballot. There it is. Big shocker there that he ended up making it on the ballot, casting out only 300 of them when he was, well over the number that he actually needed to have. So the official statement from the campaign last night. Today, the frivolous legal filing by Democrat activists, allies with Laura Kelly, to keep Greg Orman off the ballot was denied for the second time. It has been affirmed that Greg Orman and John Dahl will be on the ballot in November, and the voices of thousands of Kansas voters will not be suppressed by political tricks. Over the last several days, we have the curtain pulled back and seen firsthand the party bosses at work to further entrap Kansas in a broken system that rewards blind loyalty and partisanship, which is destructive to our way of life. Now, we could take that a few different ways. Number one, you could say, well, it's a little bit of a different statement than he made back in 2014 when he ran, and the Democrats embraced him and everything was all hunky-dory. He was still an independent, but the Democrats embraced him in that race. But now the Democrats are challenging him. And again, it's the Democrats that are going against their entire platform of anti-voter IDs and verifying who you are and trying to get felons not to vote. It's going against their entire platform of what they've believed in for elections for the last few years, at least, as Democrats. Now, all of a sudden, they care about, the validity of the ballot and the validity of you actually going to the voting booth to be able to vote, because they don't want him on the ballot, because they realize that he's a stronger candidate than Laura Kelly is as a Democrat, and they're threatened by it. The girlfriend where you just get into the new relationship and the girl sees the guy that's, talking to another female at work and she gets all types of jelly. I know. Yeah. And she feels a little threatened by that. Well, this is it right here. This is the independent candidate running on the ballot against the Democrat, and a lot of the Democrats that know Greg Orman more so than Laura Kelly, the Democrats that like Greg Orman more so than Laura Kelly, and he's probably going to do better than Laura Kelly. That's the threatened girlfriend, the jealous girlfriend that just doesn't say, wait a second, I'm supposed to be getting all the attention here. What the heck are you doing saying hi to your coworker that potentially could be the opposite sex of you, if she identifies as that? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. We got a big show for you today. Of course, it is a free-for-all Friday, so it is whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you. It doesn't really matter. We can work through it together. We can have some fun. I do have a couple non-political stories to chat about today as well that we will get to, just kind of a fun Friday thing, because it is a Friday. This week's been a little crazy. The first week of pre-K is almost over. Can you believe it? First week of preschool for my little girl is almost over. Now, she's only going for about 3 hours a day, and we've been asking her every single night, what have you been learning? What have you been talking about? And she's having a problem, apparently, with one student that likes to just go and take her glasses off. Because she's wearing glasses. She's probably the only one there that's wearing glasses. Now, as far as I know of, the fact that they're in preschool and still don't talk very well, I haven't heard any names of her being called Four Eyes or anything like that. If so, then Papa Bear's going to be a little upset. But let me ask you something. And actually, this is a good question for some of the other parents out there that are in that age group. But she's very, very intelligent. Now, I don't know what they teach in preschool other than they get to play and they get to learn a little bit of the few colors and shapes and stuff. But she knows how to write her name. She knows how to recognize every letter of the alphabet. And she knows just about all of her shapes. And she can count to 20. I'm pretty impressed as a 4-year-old who's in preschool right now, because that's not what they're doing in school right now. She put her name on her paper after they got done painting or whatever they did. She wrote her name, Isla Hoosier. She even knows Hoosier on there. She knows how to write it. Obviously, it looks like a 4-year-old's writing, but she knows how to write it on the painting that they did. And she came home, talked to us about the book that they read, and talked about what the book was about, which I don't know if other preschoolers do that or not. My wife and I, Mrs. Voice of Reason, and I were mentioning yesterday, I don't know if we should talk about trying to bump her up to kindergarten. I don't know. But there's already a kid there that likes to kind of be the little bully and take the glasses off her, which doesn't make us very happy. But then the fact that, I don't know. I don't know if the other kids are writing or not. I don't know what the prerequisite is for preschool versus the kindergarten or what they're doing. But she knows her shapes. She knows her colors. She knows all the letters of the alphabet. She can write her name. And I almost think that, it's time to moving on up. Moving on up. I don't know. It's only like the first week of school. So I'm wondering maybe we should wait a little month and see, what the teacher has to say. I'm wondering. Now, they were talking about, and Tiffany, and my wife, she was talking about the process of how they get to the school every day and how they get into the school and then how they get out of the school. And you want to talk about some of the school safety is concerned about, people trying to kidnap the little kids or school shootings or anything like that. As we talk about safety in the schools, they have this school kind of really locked down. I mean, it's locked down pretty tight. You're apparently, now I've not been to the school yet. I want to go and I want to see the classroom, and I'm excited to be able to do that, but I've been working, so I haven't been able to actually go and see any of this, but I'm really excited to go and see it here soon. But she was talking about how they'd have to go, the different levels of grades have to walk through certain actual doors in the building. So, for her being the preschooler, have to walk through a certain door as opposed to the first graders that walk through a different door over there. So that way they can monitor where all the students are going compared to what side of the building that they're on and what doors are actually walking into. And that helps them keep the security. When they leave at the end of the day, the teachers actually hold on to the kids by the door, and the parents walk up to the door, and the teacher recognizes the parent and then releases the kid outside the door to be able to go with the parent. It's she described it as like a hostage situation. You walk up and your kid's just not like coming out of the school, and you just sit there by the street and you wait for him to come to you. They don't do that anymore, apparently. Apparently now, for the younger kids, and maybe this is just the one school, I don't know, but apparently for this school, they wait by the front door, and the teacher recognizes the parent and then says, "All right, kid, now you can go." And they release them one by one. Kind of an interesting concept. Now, I know this is obviously the younger kids, so we're concerned about kidnappers and creepers and weirdos, which is good. And I'm glad that this process is in place because I want my child to be safe. I just find it kind of interesting because that never happened with us when I was younger. Did it to you? I don't think that ever happened. It was one of those you just got to walk outside and your parents in the car and they just wait for you to get in the back seat and then you take off and you're done. And that was it. And that was at the preschool kindergarten level. I remember that. It was very strange. So I'm curious to see this. I'm looking forward to actually going to the school and seeing it. And I don't know. I'm kind of impressed, kind of happy with my little one. As we mentioned, I mean, it's the one where you go to school and you learn and then you come home and then we try to relearn or embrace what they were taught. Because I'm not saying that all teachers, are teaching wrong things or bad things in any way, shape, or form. There's some wonderful, wonderful teachers. We love teachers to death. But the curriculum sometimes, and I guess it's going to get, apparently once they get older to other stuff and we get into history classes and math classes, she's not going to learn Common Core junk. She's not going to learn how to do Common Core math. She's going to learn how to do math the real way. And I'm going to look at the book and probably be confused now because math was my thing. I love math. But nowadays in the books, they're probably going to be one of those where you have no idea what they're trying to do to break down the math problem. There's way easier ways to do it. And I'm going to teach her the way easier way to actually do this. And I think we got it covered, too, because my favorites, of course, is going to be math and science. My wife is really good with the English and the trigonometry and that sort of thing. Trig is not my thing. We were talking about this last night. Not my thing. I'm an algebra kind of guy, and I'll teach her the algebra and the history. I'll do the history stuff too. But between the both of us, we got this, and she's going to be coming home and telling us exactly what happened in school, and then we can like offset that a little bit or tweak it a little bit if we need to. Right now, they're just playing games and reading books, and I think it's kind of cool. So school first week in the book. I cannot believe that my little girl's already going to school. It is really hard to believe. Makes me, number one, feel really old. Number two, makes me feel really proud because my little one's already in school. Can you believe it? That first week, if you remember that first week, that first day, that first time that your kid or your grandkid went to school, I want to hear from you and how excited you were and that just the awesomeness. I don't even know how to describe it. Just the proudness that you feel with a story like that. So I love it. It's a free-for-all Friday. We'll cover some political stuff, non-political stuff, but of course, Greg Orman is on the ballot. That is the big news of the morning. Big shocker. I know everybody's concerned. It's now, of course, you're going to have the Democrats. I'm sure I'm going to check Twitter here in a minute, but Anthony Hensley, the one that started this whole challenge of Greg Orman being on the ballot, I'm sure has some kind of comments about being a bunch of right-wing crazy Republicans on the ballot, how it was corrupt and how it was skewed and how, it was all political as opposed to looking at it objectively. And there's going to be a whole bunch of attacks on evil right-wing conservatives in the state of Kansas trying to sabotage the election by allowing somebody on the ballot that could potentially affect the Democrats. I know that's outside of the realm of Democrat possibility when it comes to criticizing people because they do stuff they don't like. The Democrats don't usually do that, but I'm curious to see if that's actually what happened here as of last night. So we'll check all that and more. Your phone calls when we come back as well. It is a free-for-all Friday right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
just let that ride for a little bit as we wake up this morning. Welcome into the Voice of Reason here on a Friday. Welcome into it. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. Come on, baby. Let's do it. So Anthony Hennessey on Twitter, boy, he's going vicious against Greg Orman. It's kind of fun to watch. Anthony Hennessey. Hold on here. All right. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. Anthony Hennessey. Now, it hasn't been as of recent, but as of July 18th was the last tweet from Anthony Hennessey. And there's been about a nice little procession of about 10 different tweets in a row going after Greg Orman, the independent candidate from Anthony Hennessey from the Kansas State Senate Democratic leader side, and saying he shared a press release. What's Orman's response when it came to calling Greg Orman, by the way, a sexist? Because, well, you know, if you disagree with somebody, then you're a sexist. And going after Laura Kelly as an opponent, then apparently he's a sexist. That's going to be their platform right here. Remember, if you disagree with Laura Kelly because of ideas or based on philosophy, then you're a sexist. Because remember, just like the article that we read yesterday, that Laura Kelly will win because predominantly Democratic women have been winning primaries across the nation, and women are doing very well, so therefore she will win based on being a woman. And if you challenge her as a candidate, then you are a sexist because she should win because she's a woman, because you need that box of the female vote, right? So Anthony Hennessey going after that response. Over the weekend, it was reported Scott Poor, a member of Greg Orman's campaign board of directors, made derogatory comments about Democratic candidate for governor Laura Kelly. He questioned her qualifications and her job history. He challenged her qualifications and job history, yet hasn't made any comments about the qualifications of any male candidates. Oh, that means, ladies and gentlemen, that Scott Poor and Greg Orman are sexist. Now, this was at July 18th, so this was before the primary, meaning that they probably had a notion that she was going to get the nomination, maybe had some internal polling showing that she was up a little bit, and the field was too open for the Republicans, didn't question anybody else, took a shot at Laura Kelly saying she's not qualified because of whatever reason, but it was because she's a woman, because they're sexist. Oh, this is going to be a fun race. I mean, come on. This is going to be one of the most entertaining governor's races that we can possibly imagine because Chris Kobach and Greg Orman, if they ever take a shot at Laura Kelly, then they're sexist. This will be the argument that they use. They have nothing else. They realize that she's a weak candidate. They realize that she's not very personable. They realize that Greg Orman's probably going to do fairly well with the Democrat voters, and so all they have is you're a sexist and you're a racist. Look at that, 2 platforms covered. The independents are sexist, the Republicans are racist. There you go. Laura Kelly should potentially just win by default because she's the only non-racist, non-sexist female in the race, and therefore she should just be given the governorship, right?
Keeping reason in the world of politics.
But if you're really angry, why in the first place are you not frustrated and angry at the fact that you have to spend $250 to $600 of your own cash to be able to provide resources in the classroom?
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, good morning to you. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. It is a Friday. It is a free-for-all Friday. Let's enjoy it a little bit. What do you say? Waking you up the best way we know how to do so, which is starting you off all fired up about politics. Waking you up the right way. Interpret that however you like to do so. 36 minutes past the hour. 316-721-8255. It is open lines to you on anything you want to talk about. Doesn't have to be the election. It's all right. It can be it's something we've talked about throughout the week, something we haven't talked about. Maybe you want to revisit the mini mansions. Maybe you want to talk about the budgets. Doesn't matter. Maybe you want to talk about football. Football does start next week. By the way, speaking of high school football here on KQAM, starting on Thursday next week for the high school football game of the week. Friday, we'll have Bishop Carroll football because, well, the Wichita Wingnut's still on KGSO. And then on Friday night as well, I will be hosting, yours truly will be hosting the statewide scoreboard show, recapping high school football games across the entire state of Kansas. Also, I don't know if I can say anything yet. I do have some big news coming up on some things that I am doing, helping out some of the campaigns for election time. I'm going to be doing my part other than just sitting on the radio trying to get the word out. I am going to be out and about actively on the ground, boots on the ground sort of thing, and helping out with what I can. So more information to come. I don't know if I can say anything yet or not. That's just a little tease, radio tease there for you, but more information to come there because, I like to actually have my actions speak with my words. And as I sit behind a studio and a microphone every day telling you what we should be doing, I also want to be doing it myself. So I'll have some information on that a little bit later, but I am going to be helping out. I'm working on. There's a few things actually that we're trying to work on, or at least I'm trying to work on personally, to try and get more involved and do more things outside of the studio, because this is great and we can start the movement here and we can get everybody riled and rallied here on the show. But at the same time, unless we actually see the boots on the ground and actually physically happening, then things don't get done. So that's what I want to try and advocate for, and that's what I want to do myself, along with encourage you to do so as well. 316-721-8255. So speaking of the governor's race, and we can shift gears here in just a minute, but I do want to touch on this because this is kind of interesting. And as you know, I've been relatively critical of moderate Republicans in the state of Kansas, and the big issue right now is, will the moderate sect of the Republican Party, which is about a third of the party, I'd say about a third is moderate, a third is conservative, and a third is just kind of like, I don't know, it kind of floats there and kind of goes about. It's really interesting to watch the makeup of the Republican Party in the state of Kansas. But the big concern right now is going into the governor's race is, will the moderate Republicans embrace Chris Kobach? Because that's a really hard thing. He's campaigned as a conservative. He said many times that he is a conservative. And if you're not a conservative or don't want conservative values, then don't support him. And he's mentioned that many times before. And you got to respect that. Whether you dislike it or you like it, you got to respect it. Because there's someone that's actually running for office that says, this is my platform, this is what I believe, and I'm not going to change on that. I'm not going to be wavering on that. If you like it, then great. If you don't, then that's fine too. But I'm not going to compromise what I stand for and what I believe in. And it's very difficult to run in politics like that, because usually campaigns and politicians, they go to some group and they talk over here and they say, oh yeah, I love immigration, and immigration's we wanted to open it up a little bit more, and we need to be a little more loosey-goosey on the immigration policy. Then you talk over here and you say, no, we need to crack it down, we need to build the wall, we need to make it really tight and really strict. And it depends on what group you're talking to, what donors you may be talking to, whatever. And, you hear the differences in conversation. But then when you do get those candidates that say, this is what I believe, this is what I stand for, and you're not going to change my mind on it, and it doesn't matter who you're talking to, that's what you believe, then you got to respect that in politics. It's very, very difficult to get elected like that, because you're not pandering to every different group and every individual. You're not doing that. You're just saying, this is what I believe. We have a representative form of government, and if I'm going to represent you, this is how I'm going to be represented, and this is how I'm going to represent you. This is what I'm going to do. So, kudos to Chris Kobach on that. The big question is, will moderate Republicans embrace Chris Kobach? Now, as you know, I've been advocating for the rallying, the uniting of the Republican Party, of everybody within the Republican Party. Let's rally together. Our battles were in the primary, not in the general election. Now we vote party over person. Voting independent is a very silly thing. Voting libertarian is a very silly thing. We vote for the party now, because now the party has set its platform, has set its goal, has set who it's going to be representing it within the election, within the elected seats, and now we vote for these individuals. And we rally together. Whether you like Chris Kobach or not, it's not about the individual anymore. It's about the movement, it's about the party, and it's about the idea. And that's really what it comes down to in a general election. So I've been crying for that for a long time, been calling for that, been advocating for that. What's really shocking, according to the Kansas City Star, is that Don Heineman, House Majority Leader for the Republicans, a very big moderate, and we were very critical of him actually just a few weeks ago when we heard about him hiring full-time staff on taxpayer money. He's the one that was hiring campaigners in the primaries to try and protect moderate incumbent Republicans in the House. And we said that was a very bad thing to do. You're not supposed to be doing that. And we are very critical of that. Well, he came out and he made a statement trying to warn individuals of moderate Republicans not to endorse or embrace candidates in the governor other than Chris Kobach. And that's kind of nice and refreshing to hear. Chris Kobach's nomination for governor has sparked a crisis of conscience among moderate Republicans. I like how they quote that again. Left-wing media here, no fake news on this one. Republicans and candidates who largely detest the views and behavior but find themselves in an awkward position. They can choose to stay silent on the candidate or endorse one of his competitors to face the possible repercussions of GOP leaders. The conundrum came to head on Monday this week when House Majority Leader Don Heineman, a moderate from Dighton who wrote more than 24 of his fellow centrists to discourage them from taking public stances on anyone other than Chris Kobach, the party's standard bearer as of right now. In the email, Heineman warned the support for independent candidate Greg Orman or Democratic nominee Laura Kelly, quote, could well be a career-ending move for anyone who chooses to do so. Please do not do it. Your own vote is, of course, your own, but do not endorse, do not publicly support, do not join a Republican for ... group, and do not write a check. Any of these actions are very inappropriate for a Republican office holder. I fear there would be serious repercussions. And for that, Don Heineman, well done, my friend. Absolutely fantastic. That's what we need. Now you can go into the voting booth and you can vote for whoever the hell you want to. Doesn't matter. But as a publicly elected Republican, even if you despise, just don't say anything. It's one of those where if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Now's the time to put that in practice, politician. I know it's very difficult as a politician to do, but that's the perfect time and the appropriate time to do it. Don't say anything at all if you can't say anything nice. Do not publicly endorse. Do not write a check. And do not vocally support anyone other than Chris Kobach right now. You are a Republican. That fight was in the primary race. You're a Republican now. You will be a Republican. And just like how we saw before on the Senate side, the Senate Majority Leader and the Senate President Susan Wagle come out and remove a certain individual from different leadership positions on different membership boards. That's what we need to do right now. It's a good thing. This is about Republican unity. And we're not trying to be the fascists. We're not trying to be the tyrants coming down on you. This is the matter of we support Republican values. If you don't support Republican values, then don't say anything at all and change your party affiliation. You're a Republican. Now we're about embracing Republican values as a whole. Yes, we recognize there's a very wide umbrella of Republicanism, but we need to respect one another within that party. So if you're going to be a Republican, all the power to you, but it's time to support the Republican candidate. And I very, very, very much congratulate Don Heineman for that comment and thank him very much for that because that's what we need to do. And hopefully they follow through with it. Because I know there are some Republicans that absolutely detest Chris Kobach as moderate Republicans in leadership positions. And hopefully this carries on. I mean, imagine what we could do in the state of Kansas if we end up getting Chris Kobach in as the Republican. We have the Republican governorship. We have the Republican majority in the House. We have the Republican majority in the Senate. And both chambers recognize, you know what? Republicanism is Republicanism. We're going to work with the Republican governor the best we can. Imagine what we could get done right now. I would have loved to have seen this, the last 8 years with Governor Sam Brownback and Governor Jeff Collier. I would have really loved to have seen that, where they didn't have a veto override vote for the largest tax increase in state history. I would have loved to have seen that type of mentality when it came to and maybe they're starting to realize the error of their ways. Maybe they're starting to recognize that overriding a governor's veto on tax increases as Republicans is a really dumb thing to do. Maybe they're starting to wake up, the light bulb went on, and they've gotten so much heat from us, you and I, the conservatives, the voters, that said, wait a second, you raise my taxes, what? You raised my taxes retroactively? What? And you did that to where we owed the state of Kansas. And we're still in the deficit. And we're still bowing down to the Supreme Court. And you're still talking about another tax increase. And you're still talking about more government spending. And you're going to tell us what as a Republican? Oh, that's why we saw 7 of the House seats across the state of Kansas actually go from incumbent moderate Republicans to conservative seats. That's what we saw in this election, and leadership's recognizing it. They spent money. Don Heineman was one of those that literally spent taxpayer money, your money, that they increased retroactively for you to have your tax money go up. They spent part of that money to hire campaigners full-time to go and campaign for incumbent moderate Republican, not conservatives, just incumbent moderate Republicans to try and stay in office. They still lost. They don't know what's happening, or they're starting to realize what's happening. They don't realize how big this movement actually is of conservatives being upset in the state of Kansas. So what are they doing? Now they're starting to realize what's happening, shifting gears a little bit and saying, all right, it's time for us to get in line with the Republican values. And I credit them for that because it's about time. Well, now let's practice that when hopefully we get a Republican governor in the state of Kansas. When we actually try and cut taxes. When we actually try and repeal the sales taxes on food that's ridiculously high. When we actually try and go back, and just as Chris Kobach said the last time he came on the show a week or so ago, when he said not only is he going to lower taxes again in the state on your income tax, but he's going to do it retroactively and write you a check back and say, sorry for us raising the taxes on you, here's your money back. In House and Senate, you better be on board with it. You better be on board, because that's not what we've seen the last couple of years. What we've seen in the last couple of years was, yeah, sorry, Governor Sam Brownback, we're going to repeal whatever you've done, and we're going to override you with with a veto override in the House and in the Senate. We're going to have enough numbers as Republicans to reverse what this Republican governor is doing, going against the grain, against the Republican governor. And it's time for that to stop. So this is good news. This is very positive news. This is saying, all right, our battle was in the primary. Now let's move forward as a whole, as a unified party, as Republicans. And if you speak out, there will be repercussions, because it's time for us to get on board and get stuff done. 316-721-8255. Let's take a break. Wrap up hour number one. We got lots more to get to. I don't want to be hard politics all day long today, but I thought that was really good news and really appropriate this morning as we see Greg Orman on the ballot, as we go further with the governor's race. Again, I'm telling you, this is going to be the biggest race we've seen in a really, really long time. And you're recognizing it with the fact that we saw massive voter turnout for the primaries. Massive voter turnout. I'm excited. I am giddy. I'm literally giddy, and I am so much in anticipation for this election. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in just a few months. 48 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up hour number one. Can you believe it? First hour already said and done. It goes by way too fast. You know what's really funny about that story? Don Heineman, the moderate Republicans, writing letters to 12 different elected officials in the House, warning them, don't be endorsing or writing checks to anybody else other than Chris Kobach, because we need to be a united Republican Party. What's really sad about that is that they already know who these people are. These are the troublemakers over here. They're not real Republicans. We got to keep them on a tight leash. We already know it. They don't even try to hide it anymore. It's kind of the sad part. It is a Friday. It is a free-for-all Friday, which means welcome in 316-721-8255. It is also, as you know, the Friday, meaning a fried chicken Friday, brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe. 112 South of Main Street in downtown Inman, just north of Hutchinson, as we talk about great food. And you can usually smell by now the biscuits and gravy that float yonder down here as you start thinking about what you're going to have. And a great way to start off the weekend. Katie's on the line with us from the Inman Harvest Cafe. Katie, happy Fried Chicken Friday to you.
Good morning, Andy. Happy Fried Chicken Friday to you.
I am already thinking about biscuits and gravy with chicken sprinkles and chicken dust all sprinkled over my wonderful biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, you know, the one thing that's entirely consistent about Fridays is the fried chicken, because you never know what else you're going to get out there, and a lot of times I don't know what we're going to get out there.
Well, you know what? Sometimes, though, it's kind of nice because, you know, as you said, you got the base of the fried chicken and the roast beast. Outside of that, it can be like a buffet mystery day.
It's a mystery day to me sometimes, yeah.
So that's all right. So you got the mystery. So when you go up, you know that it's going to be good anyway. So you go up and you have, you know, the fried chicken and the roast beef, and then you just have mystery food. And I almost wonder if it's one of those where, like, you could have it on the buffet tray thing, but then they don't even know it until they literally lift up the tray, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so, like, in the world of casseroles, okay, there's there's really only so many combinations that you can do, okay? You've got your meat, you've got your starch that you mix in there, you're either rice or noodles or potatoes, okay?
Sure.
And then you've got your sauce, okay, because a casserole's not a casserole without some kind of sauce.
And cheese.
And then cheese. And then sometimes there's a breadcrumb topping, sometimes there's a cornflake topping, sometimes there's like stuffing on top. You know, it just depends on what you feel like. And you can go to the internet, you can go to, I've got like over 100 cookbooks in my back room that we peruse often looking for new recipes. But honestly, it's really all the same stuff. It's just how you put it together.
That is true.
And so I just want everybody to know that it's going to be fabulous today, but I don't know what it is.
Whatever it may be, that's all right. You know what? I almost wonder if there's a way you could do a casserole of just like bumbleberry casserole.
Well, it would be like a cobbler or like a crisp or like bread pudding.
Yeah.
Bumbleberry bread pudding would be really good.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about. So you got all that stuff. You do have the lunch buffet from 11 to 1 today, the dinner buffet from 5 to 8 o'clock tonight. Along with that, and we got about a minute left here, so I don't want to let people forget that you do have the free slice of pie with that tonight. Do you have an idea on what the pies may be?
Oh, yeah, the pies are already done. So the pies are coconut cream, chocolate cream, sour cream raisin, rhubarb, custard, peach, pecan. There is a pumpkin pecan cheesecake and a pecan caramel cheesecake pie.
There you go.
We went a little nuts on the pecans this week. So
you know what?
we
That's
got
a good
lots
day.
of pecans.
It's pecan week, so maybe you should intertwine that with some of the other dinners and do like a pecan roast or something. I don't know.
Pecan everything.
Yeah, just make it a pecan day. That way, it's a theme going on at the Inman Harvest Cafe today with that 112 South Main Street, downtown Inman. Go check them out. They got the great buffets, lunch and dinner today. You can see with the specialties, with the fried chicken, with the roast beef, and then all the great stuff, along with the pies, and rhubarb sounds really delicious today as well, which kind of makes me happy. Katie, have fun. Enjoy breakfast. We'll check in with you here in a couple hours.
All right, sounds good. We'll talk to you then.
Very good. That's Katie with the Inman Harvest Cafe. We appreciate that very much. Let's take a break. We'll wrap up hour number 1. Top of the hour news coming up. When we come back in hour number 2, we'll shift gears a little bit. Kind of an interesting story. Environmentalism going full throttle, possibly even here in Kansas and in Wichita. We'll talk about that. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
These are the ones that are trying to get illegal aliens to be able to vote in our elections. This is the party trying to get people who are actually incarcerated at the time to actually vote. This is the same party that doesn't want voter ID laws, and now they're saying, the county's missed it by a day. Sorry, you can't get those voted. You got to be removed off the ballots. So you want them to be able to vote. You just don't want them to be able to sign a petition to get one of your opponents on the ballot as a candidate.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. On the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV as well, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Good morning, welcome aboard. Great to have you along today on the day we've been looking forward to all week long. It is a Friday. Let's make it a free-for-all Friday. As usual, today is whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you. Talk about anything you want to. I'm just along for the ride, sitting back, enjoying the day. Come on. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. Facebook Live feed is up and rolling today. Decent amount of people jumping on that one. Go on, like it, share it, leave a comment, ask a question, call me a jerk, say good morning. I don't really care. Doesn't really matter. Call me a dork. I got called a dork yesterday. That was kind of cool. I haven't been called a dork since like school. Andy says a dork. I actually took my school very seriously and until college. Then I just kind of was like, whatever. There's a keg of beer. All right, that's cool. But no, I took my schooling very seriously. I graduated high school with a 3.7. I want to say 3.8. I did very well. I was really close. And then college, I was like, yeah, there's politics and beer. Why do I need to go to class? I don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. That's a little, that's for the dorks. Yeah, 316-721-8255. Coming up on the show today, hour number 3, 0 Hour for Gen X. The book about the millennials and what the generation above us, Generation X, can do, or generation below us, what the next generation can do to fix the issues of millennials. We'll talk about that coming up in hour number 3 as Matthew Hennessey, the author of that book, will be joining us at 8 o'clock. But until then, it is open lines to you today. Really anything that you want to talk about. It's been a crazy week. It's been a fun week. Now that we're going into the general election, midterm election in November, and the governor's race is set. If you haven't heard the news, of course, we announced it last hour in the 6 o'clock hour. But Greg Orman will officially be on the ballot. The panel met all day long. I don't know what you can meet about all day long, but they met, they convened, they realized that the objections to him being on the ballot were a little absurd. They removed 300 ballots of individuals who did not have proper addresses to be able to be on the ballot, and then they approved the rest of them. Plenty of signatures to be on his petition, and he is officially on the ballot going into the general election. And, of course, we have Anthony Hensley and all the Democrats panicking and freaking out about racism and sexism against Laura Kelly. Yeah. There you go. So that's kind of the big news of the day. Here's something, though, that I thought was kind of interesting as we talk about some of the local issues, not just like the miniature mansions and the small homes and everything of that sort, but I saw something on social media a few days ago, about a week or so ago, and it was one of our city council members, and I can say him, Brandon Johnson. He's up in my district number 1, one of the newer city council members, and he had put a poll on his Facebook page about individuals saying that he's received a lot of emails concerning this issue, and he wanted to put a poll on to get a feel for his district and for people that were friends with him on social media, that their thoughts on banning, as a city ordinance, banning plastic bags at grocery stores. And I was taken aback for a minute, and I was like, why in the world would we want to ban plastic bags as a city? As a city, not even like the grocery store's decision here, but as a city wanting to ban plastic bags. I mean, this is going to go down the road eventually of like, what are we going to do? Ban straws in the city of Wichita is what? Can't have a straw. Can't be using plastic. That's really bad for the environment. So what are we going to do? We're going to get a metal straw that's going to be in a plastic bag so you can open up the plastic bag and throw the plastic away while you use the metal straw. I mean, that's what it comes down to. This is the stupidity of environmentalism of we need to ban the plastic straw of what's happening in California. Now we're talking about doing the whole plastic bags. And I know plastic bags have been an issue for a while, but he did the poll and 68% of the people on his page. Now, granted, this is the Facebook poll, which means really the only people that are involved in the poll are ones that maybe predominantly more like-minded ideologically. If I did a poll on my Facebook, predominantly it's going to be favorable to what I want the outcome to be, because the majority of my friends on Facebook are predominantly conservative, right-leaning individuals. There are some left-wingers on my Facebook because I like to see what the other side's doing, but predominantly it'd be conservative. But 68% of individuals that did the poll, close to 1,000 people, said yes, the city should ban plastic bags. And I was taken aback by this because, we got to save the environment. They're really bad. They're really unhealthy. Now, I know a lot of people, and my wife does this as well at times, to where we have our bags that we bring with us, the cloth bags, and we take them with us, and then we fill those up. Then whatever's left over, then we use plastic, and I got no problem. And then what we do is that we actually try and reuse the plastic bags, and we use them as our trash bags in our home. We have the small little trash bags in our bedrooms or in the bathroom or something, and then obviously we have the big trash bag for like the kitchen and the bigger areas, but we have the small little trash bins in the bathroom and in the different rooms and stuff, and we use the plastic bags for that, so that way they can be used again, and then we'll fill them up, then we'll throw them in the trash. But do you support the banning of plastic bags in the city of Wichita? I never thought this would be an issue. I never thought in a conservative, right-leaning state like the state of Kansas that we'd have to worry about a ridiculous issue like this. Plastic, no, it's not good for the environment necessarily, but we've got to put it to good use, and that's the way. It's cheap, it's economical, and it's efficient. And that's what we're using. And right now, I get people that go there and say, I only want the paper bag. I don't understand it. I mean, I guess if you want to, but you can't use it again, really. You can't reuse it. You kind of waste that more than you do the plastic. I guess either one of it at the end of the day end up in the trash bin. Paper, you can at least kind of sort of burn at times. Plastic, you can burn too, but then everybody gets all freaking out about the whole ozone layer in the environment. I haven't seen an issue with it. In Ohio, growing up on a farm, we didn't even have trash service. You lived out in the farm, and I'm sure most people out in the farm today, too, they burn their trash. Plastic bags and all. And I know, environmentalist trigger warning here. I know. Kind of a scary thing for some environmentalists to be like, oh my gosh, they're burning their trash. We used to do that all the time. That was my job as the kid growing up on the farm, was that every week you take the 3 or 4 bags of trash, and we went all the way back. And actually, I started a forest fire one time. Whoopsies. But it was one of those really windy days during the summer, kind of dry. But it was my job as the kid that I was always take the trash back, and I always had my a wagon or something, and because we had a really, really large property in Ohio, and the place where we burned the trash was all the way in the back by the woods. We had about 80 acres of land total, and it was the first front of it was all kind of field on each side, and then we had the big open grass with the 2 barns, and the barn was way back there. I mean, it took you literally 15-20 minutes to walk back there, and the burn site was behind that, and it was this big open area, and that was my job. Every week I'd take the trash back there, I'd throw it in, I'd throw some old oil on it, the recycled oil that you'd use out of your car. You'd do that to get it lighted, and then you'd light it. I know, environmental warning again right now. People freaking out. But it wasn't against the rules at that time. You were able to do that back then, and that's what we did. And one day it was really windy and dry, and Mom was like, oh, you got to go burn the trash. Okay, kid. And ended up lighting the woods on fire. Luckily, it wasn't that bad. Yes, the fire department had to come out and be able to put it out, and they had to bring the big 5,000 tanker out there to go and put it out. But we got it out. It wasn't that bad. It's okay. But that was what we did. That's just what we did. But now, of course, now we have the garbage services for the most part, and we try and reuse what we can. You get the plastic bags, you bring them home, you empty them, and then you save them and store them, and then you put them in the little trash bins to be able to fill up with trash, and then you throw it out. So that way you can at least have somewhat use for them. But do you support the banning of plastic bags now as a city ordinance? Because my concern is this is, first off, ridiculous, and I don't think it's an issue that we should be addressing here, but it's going to go down the road, and pretty soon we're going to be banning plastic straws because we don't want anything plastic because it's going to be really bad, and all the enviros are going to be controlling and dominating what you're allowed to do in society. Again, lack of freedom because people want to save the environment when there's really no need, and it's not really going to do anything. It's not going to save us at all. So what are you going to do? You're going to advocate for the cloth bags? Okay, the manufacturing of the cloth bag is probably just as filthy for the ozone and for the environment as actually manufacturing a plastic bag. I just don't get it. But then you see a story, and let's take it to the next level, is according to Fortune.com, now Kroger, the country's largest supermarket chain, the nation's largest grocery chain, announced yesterday it plans to, or was it last week, doesn't really matter, eliminate single-use plastic bags at all of its stores by 2025. So maybe there's some validity to it now. Instead of individuals saying we're going to advocate for it as a city ordinance of banning plastic bags, to where all the private companies have to change their operating process, that the companies themselves are now saying we're going to start weeding out the plastic bags by 2025. And Kroger, as a nationwide ordinance of its company policy, now going to begin working to change and convert from plastic bags to paper, I'm assuming. I don't know. But they want to change all of their single-use plastic bags out of its stores by 2025. So that takes it to a totally different level. Now, if the company does it as a company policy, there's nothing we can do about it, and we just have to kind of go along with the flow because that's the decision of the company. But that is, in the private market, a way different way to actually approach this, as opposed to a city and a government saying, you're not allowed to buy plastic. And what are you going to do? Come down and fine me because I use plastic bags? You're going to write me a little city ordinance, write me a fee? Oh, you use plastic. Now the government gets to benefit financially from your mistake. Is that what we're going to come down to? There's different approaches here, but what's your thoughts on plastic bags? I'd love to hear. I think it's an absurd issue, but apparently there is some momentum for it here in the community. 68% of the Facebook poll from our very own city councilman came out and said, yeah, we want to ban it as a city law. to ban plastic bags. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones here. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
John?
Hey, good morning, John. How are you, sir?
Fine. I just want to take issue with the idea of burning plastic bags. Maybe that works on the individual farm, but you cannot do that on a large scale. I lived in Naples, Italy for 2 years, and the mafia controlled the trash pickup, and when they were mad with the city, they would stop trash pickup, and the residents would then burn those plastic bags in the street.
Sure.
My sinuses have not been the same since I came back from there 10 years ago.
Oh, sure. No, I'm not saying it's good in any way, shape, or form, and I definitely wouldn't advocate for it on a grand scale. That was just the example that I had used. Is on the farm, that's just what we did because we didn't have trash service out in the middle of the country. So you could either drive it into town or you could burn it, and we just burned it, and that's just what we did. I'm not saying it's a good idea. That was just kind of the example that I ended up using because you're right. I mean, it does mess with your sinuses. It can have health effects. I think burning that, and it just smells nasty, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. So do you think that we should start weeding out plastic bags out of the grocery stores by a city ordinance, or do you support even the companies trying to move towards this initiative?
I think it should be voluntary. But I do support the initiative and moving things in that direction. I mean, it smacks of the extreme environmentalists, like the plastic straw deal. But in general, fewer plastic bags is a good thing because they do wash up on the shores in underdeveloped countries.
Sure. No, you're right, John. I appreciate it very much. I can agree with you there. I mean, as we evolve and as we find better, more efficient ways to do things, then is that a way that we can actually begin to change things? Sure, absolutely. And I'm in support of a company making this decision. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I don't want to come across here as anti-environment sort of thing. And we need more plastic bags just to stick it to the environmentalists. I don't want to come across that way. If it's the business making the decision, then so be it. And I support something like that. And if we're moving towards a way to be a little more environmentally sound, because the business, again, the private industry, the private sector making that decision, not government. Just got a text as well. Some cities require 5-cent tax per bag. See, again, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. We shouldn't do that. The government should not be doing this. If the companies and the corporations want to say, you know what, I want a nice carbon footprint, or I want a nice eco-friendly business, or I want to start saving the environment, I want to start doing something to not only help the environment, but to show that show to the consumer that we're caring about this and that we're about this, all the power to you. That's what we're going to do to make a better society. That's what we're going to do to make a better world. It's the private industry that's going to make these changes, not the government. It's like the government subsidizing solar panels and wind energy, forcing people to get off of oil and forcing people to get off electricity because they need to go towards wind and solar panels when it's inefficient and it's really expensive. It's not going to happen through government forcing the issue. It's going to happen through the evolving and the changes that's happening privately in the private sector. If the company wants to do it on their own by saying we're going to get rid of plastic bags, that's awesome. All the power to them. That's great. That makes me feel very happy. The government, however, should not be punishing you, should not be banning it, and should not be getting rid of plastic bags just because the government wants to have a say in this. I don't agree with the government having a say. That's my point. 316-721-82. I'm not anti-environmentalist here because I want to double the amount of plastic bags in the trash bins. I really don't want that. Don't get me wrong. Line number 2. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. This is Sean.
Sean, how are you, sir?
Doing well. Hey, here's what makes me scratch my head. The grocery business is unbelievably competitive with, all the different, options out there to go grocery shopping. And, they're spending millions upon millions of dollars to make shopping more convenient to the customer by doing curbside or now home delivery and all these other things. Mm-hmm. Yet now Kroger wants to take a step back and make it a little less convenient for the customer.
Sure.
And it just seems to me that to me, it doesn't make business sense to me. And if they want to do it, that's fine. They'll be successful or they'll, not be successful based on decisions they make. And that's the beauty of our system is you get to make, as business owners, they get to make that choice, how they want to treat their customers. And,
Exactly. And they're going to do the best. they're going to do the best not only for the consumer, but for what the image of the business is, what they want to do environmentally. So if they want to ban plastic bags and they want to go a different way, that's their prerogative as a business to do so, not only to look good or to actually take care of the environment, but to also do it what's best for the company and best for the consumer. And those are the changes, those are the ways, innovations, and those are the ways that we actually change for the better as a society, not from the government telling them what they have to do.
And I'm sure they've done the studies and they've sent out questionnaires, at different places and done their homework on this thing. But it just seems to me they're going to lose more customers because they have to buy their own bags in order to get there,
right?
As opposed to how many they'll gain because they're being environmentally conscious.
Sure.
But as far as Brandon's little poll that he put out there and everything, and now he wants to make a law for this. I say it's much more effective to convince me that it's a good idea than to socially engineer me and tell me that I have to comply with his belief system.
Right, exactly.
At this point, they have not convinced me that my plastic bags are going to destroy the earth or that they are somehow evil or that there's an alternative that is better. I'm sorry, but most of these grocery bags that you see, that are green that you see people walking around with, they're made out of nylon, my friend.
Right.
That's an oil derivative. That doesn't break down in the earth either. Now,
right.
Do they last longer? Do you use them more than a plastic bag? Oh, probably. You probably do. But, it's not like these guys are using some product out there, hemp product, because, of course, hemp solves every problem in the world, as we've discussed ad nauseum.
Exactly.
But, but sure, that'll last a lot longer and is biodegradable, I suppose. So, maybe when they come up with something like that and, I can fit 12 of them, in the back of my truck, and not have them flying out the back, it'll be convenient to me as a consumer to use them, maybe. I don't know. It just seems to me they're adding an expense,
just for the sake of it.
My grocery bill to do business in your establishment. That's nuts.
Exactly. I agree. Sean, I hate to cut you off, my friend. We're late on a break here. We got to take, but no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Again, the private market always offsets itself, and if it's a move the private sector wants to do, then it'll find a way to do it expense friendly and financially friendly for the business and for the consumer, and the government's not going to be involved. I mean, give me a break. Tell me, if you're taxing per bag 5 or 7 cents per bag in some cities like they do to have a plastic bag, how is that benefiting you? How is that benefiting anybody other than the government? And oh, by the way, how is that benefiting the lower income individuals that can't afford to get groceries in the first place, and now you're taxing them another 7 cents per bag when they actually go to the grocery store? A little ridiculous. Got to take a break here. We'll get some more calls when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
All right, got to take a bottom of the hour break. Went a little long in that last segment. That's all right. We'll continue this when we come back. Kind of an interesting conversation. We got a lot of calls on the line. Don't go anywhere. Stay right here. We'll stick with you as soon as we come back and start off with your phone calls again. Do you support the banning of plastic bags? Do you support the businesses' decisions to start going that way? Is it going to affect your bill at the groceries in the grocery line? Or should the city and the government do it on their own? That and more when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
Defending the rights of every Kansan.
I'm not being aggressive, I'm being dominant.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, welcome into The Voice of Reason. Happy Friday morning to you. It is a free-for-all Friday. Making it happen, doing the thing. We got a lot of calls on the line here. We'll get to you. Your thoughts on this. And Rick Everett swinging the studio as well here. The story, of course, the big story that we're talking about, at least right now, the city of Wichita potentially talking about, which it doesn't sound like now that the companies are doing this, but the poll that was on social media by one of our city council members, should the city use a city ordinance to ban plastic bags at grocery stores? Then you see Kroger come out, according to Fortune.com, where the nation's largest grocery store chain, Kroger, says that by 2025, they will eliminate all single-use plastic bags out of all of its stores nationwide. saying that it's a bold move that will better protect our planet for future generations. Now, what's this going to do to the grocery prices? I don't know, because, hey, we're going to go towards different products for the bags, maybe cloth, maybe paper, maybe who knows. Could be potentially a little bit more expensive. Here's the thing, and again, if it's the business that decides to do this, and I'm for the business decision, making private business decisions, as opposed to the government saying, we're going to come after you. As you know, some of the cities around the country do put a 5 or 7 cent tax on per plastic bag use. Then you wonder how many things you can cram in there without it ripping. And then, it's how does that help the lower income individuals in a community who are trying to go get groceries, that are already having a tough time trying to buy their groceries? You know what we could do? I don't know, thinking outside the box here, is that we could have another business initiative or another opportunity in the private sector to increase companies that recycle plastic. I don't know. It's a crazy thought. What do you think, Rick?
I don't know. I think it's a good.
Come on.
I think it's a good move that Kroger. Okay, let me back way up, okay? I think it's going to be a pain in the butt, number one. But I get the environmental impact. And I think Kroger's doing a good thing by phasing forward with the reusable bags. Is it going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt? Yeah. Okay. Now, what I haven't heard, though, is are they going to continue with the paper? Because I'm old school. I can do paper. Paper bags are cool. They're good. You can use them to wrap stuff in. We used to cover our books. Okay, I'm going to go way old school on you now.
Okay.
We used to cover our school books.
Oh, yeah. With the paper bag.
With the paper bags.
Yeah, and then you could draw on it. You could design it. I used to do that all the time. Absolutely.
Exactamente. Yeah.
See?
So, but I don't know. On the
but again, would you support it? What it sounds like you support more the company making that decision as opposed to a government ordinance saying, yeah, you're not allowed to buy plastic bags in the city of Wichita.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That to me, that seems like
tyranny.
That.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what I thought.
But you know what? It's really disturbing when you're driving down the road and you see one of these plastic bags, whether it's Walmart or Dillon's or whomever, because everybody uses them. But to see them hanging, 30 feet up in a tree.
Well, that's what gross. Here's what you do in the redneck side coming out of me on there. There's target practice.
You can shoot that thing a million times and it's still going to be stuck in the tree. But I don't know. I think it's a good move forward. I do. It's going to take some adjustment. And I think Kroger probably is on the leading edge of this, and a lot of people are going to follow suit, would be my guess.
Well, possibly.
Follow suit before suit is filed.
See, there it is. Well,
and that'll come from the feds. That won't come from a local
Well, of course.
entity.
The feds are going to be, now that we move down this. Well, luckily, hopefully, with the downsizing of the EPA that we've seen under the Trump administration, maybe we won't see some of the environmental protection regulations come after stores like this. Let's get your thoughts on this. Phones are lighting up. 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Hey, good morning, Jim.
What's up, Jim?
Oh, trash tax.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they're up in trees, they're on fence lines, they're all over.
Well, I'm old, and I remember back when I was a kid, we lived out in the country, and the grocery store actually would deliver your groceries.
Sure.
Small little private business that it was in a building, no bigger than my apartment when I have a small apartment. But you'd actually have a box, and they'd have a box in their car, and it would say, the name of the family, and they would put that in their GMC truck and drive out and unload the box.
And that was your box, your family's box.
That's right. Now, then they also had people who went to the store, they had their own box. Mm-hmm. Then they got the newfangled folding paper sacks. Instead of having to pull the stuff out and wrap it up with wrapping paper and tie it with string, they had a paper sack.
Sure.
A few years ago, they got the cheaper, less expensive plastic sacks, and they were really strong and heavy.
Now, isn't it funny how everything goes full circle, though, Jim? I mean, you talked about a store delivering to you, and now they're getting ready to do that again, too.
I know. Let me finish. Okay, now, the first plastic sacks were as tough as the garbage bags that we buy.
Right.
Now, when you buy some canned goods, they say, do you want to put this in 2 or 3 sacks? and they'll stick the sacks inside of each other.
Right.
And you get 3, 4, 5 sacks.
Well, yeah, because then it ends up ripping, and it's ridiculous. No.
Right.
You're right. No.
Okay. The problem is, ultimately, there is no recycle market for that cheap, flimsy plastic. It's apparently gone its lifespan, and there's no effective way to recycle.
Well, it's been recycled 50 times.
Yeah, that is the recycling. That's about the last use of it. That's true. That's a great point, Jim. I want to get some other calls in here, so I appreciate it very much. But you know what it reminds me of, actually, is Aldi's. If you go to Aldi's, they don't even boxes. Yeah, they use the boxes. You use the old boxes after you've emptied a certain case of whatever, then you use that box just to kind of stack the stuff on, and you don't even use the groceries or use the bags in any way, shape, or form there, and maybe that's what everybody's going to go to.
Next call. Let's rifle these people through.
Let's rifle them through. Let's keep it short and concise, but let's get your thought. I want to get your thoughts on this. 316-721-8255. Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning. This is Asshat.
Hey, what's going on, sir?
Just wanted to say, anybody who's ever seen a plastic bag in the sunlight, they don't have UV stabilizers in them, and I've worked for a plastics factory before.
Uh-huh.
If the UV stabilizer isn't in that plastic, the sun's going to break it down. It basically disintegrates into nothing.
Oh.
So a plastic bag caught in a tree
is
only going to be there a month or more by the time the sun breaks it down.
So this is the stuff that when you take it to the junkyard at the end of the day, because you've used it and it's been recycled 20 times and it's broken down so thin that when it sits there at the trash to whatever at the junkyard or whatever, that's the stuff that just kind of dissolves and goes away, and it's not there for the rest of eternity.
Correct.
Never thought about it like that. That's a good point.
All right, and your name one more time.
Asshat.
Have a good one. Next call.
I love it. That's a really great point. I appreciate that very much. I didn't even think about that. There, take that, environmentalist. Good golly. Let's go back to the phones. Line number 3. Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Eddie.
Eddie, good morning, sir. How are you?
Okay, one question to Dillon's is, and I don't know whether you are aware of it, but Dillon's still have paper sacks.
Well, yeah, they do.
Sure.
So, I mean, I'll just say put them in the paper sacks then.
You can.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm just not a fan. And if I had the choice, I would prefer the plastic. I don't know. The paper rips on me every time.
I'll tell you why. It is. Because I think it's the handles on the plastic
it's the handle
that makes you a fan. Now,
sure.
You go to Brahms, as an example. You go to the Brahms market, and they use only paper sacks, and the paper sacks have handles, and the paper sacks are strong enough to carry 2 gallons of milk. I know this because I've tested the theory.
You've done this.
Next call.
No,
Come on,
I like
let's
that.
roll.
That's a really great point, Eddie. I
want to hear from these people.
You do have the choice. You're right. You do have the choice, and maybe if they go all in for the paper, then I don't know. I just prefer plastic. I do. I've always preferred plastic. I like the plastic, and if it's even degradable, then hell, you know what? Take that, environmentalist. Line number 4. Let's go to
Thanks, Eddie, by the way.
Yeah, there we go. Appreciate it very much. Line number 4. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, fellas, this is Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, how are you, sir?
Good. So, to follow up on the guy's name that I don't want to pronounce, about the plastic dissolving in the sun, everybody in Wichita can drive by a local site and see this in action. If you look at the eastbound on-ramp to 96 at Hillside, there's one of the trees off to the left side between the on-ramp and 96. There was several of those cellophane plastic bags stuck in one of the trees, and I notice it every single time I drive past. And those bags are now completely shredded and destroyed by the sun. You can see little gray shards in one of these kind of like bushy trees.
Yeah, isn't it attractive to watch that decomposition? I enjoy that thoroughly.
Well, but here's the thing. I mean, the whole purpose of this movement is to for the environmental part, to where we don't want to affect the environment. We don't want to destroy the environment, so therefore we need to get rid of the plastic. But if it's broken down to that level, I mean, we've already seen the recycling of the plastic from what it used to be a kid's toy where the kid tripped over it and the dad ran over it with the vehicle, and now it's recycled to something else. Now it's recycled down and down and down, and now it's the plastic bag that you use at the grocery store that's really cheap, that the business uses for cost effectiveness, and then it breaks down in the sun. I mean, I don't know how much better we can get here. I don't know what else we could possibly do other than
Can I say one more thing?
Go for it, real quick.
banning plastic bags is stupid.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you. See, we haven't had one disagree with us yet. And I'd love to hear someone disagree and say, yeah, you know what? I kind of want the government to come down on me and tell me that I need to pay more for my plastic bag.
Well, you talk about the fact that the plastic bags are inexpensive for the companies and all this
Which
and
makes
that.
it cheaper for us as the consumer. Yeah.
All right, so now look at this side of it, okay? Kroger is now turning to the reusable bags, right? Where do you buy the reusable bags? Well, I'm sure you can buy them anywhere.
Sure.
But Kroger's going to get into your pocket for these reusable bags.
Of course.
Because of the fact they're going to be selling them there, obviously.
It's going to turn into Whole Foods.
You know how much money they're going to make on reusable bags just at the onset? Because people are, they're going to have their signs up, effective a month from now, no more plastic bags, get our reusable bags, $2.95, great. You don't think that's not a whole lot of money. It's a reusable bag. I'll use it forever, right? Multiply that by gazillions of people.
Well, sure, and they're going to make some money on that one, but this is going to turn into like a Whole Foods thing to where it's like, oh, we're going to go environmental stuff, so we're going to jack up the prices on everything. Now you have to buy the bag, and then you have to buy the bag when you tear it or when you break it or when you lose it or when you don't have enough of them. So then you got to buy more bags, and then something else is going to happen again. And, oh, by the way, because of that, we're going to offset it by raising the price of all the canned goods by 10 cents a piece because it's going to be more expensive for everything else. It's the steamroller. And
everybody needs to use Brahms bags. That's what I'm saying. Use the Brahms bags. One more call. Fit it in. We can do this.
Get in here. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, morning, big guy. It's Sean.
Sean, what's going on, sir?
Oh, just getting ready to have my coffee.
Man, you're a late riser.
Get fired. Yeah. Well, late getting around, but my cylinders aren't all firing. So
well, get all 8 cylinders on board. What you got for us?
Well, first of all, before I get to the topic, I just want you to know I took a knee this morning.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Oh, my land sakes.
Yeah, I had to stop and tie my shoe on the way to my truck. So,
there you go.
And that's proper taking of a knee.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Anyway, hey, first of all, I don't want to see these plastic bags get banned because they're perfect for the wastebaskets in my house.
And the little trash container that sits right in the bathroom too.
Yeah. Oh, you bet. I use them all the time. See, I don't have to go out and spend money to buy a box of trash bags.
Because that's what you use.
Yeah, just use these.
That's in all of my bathrooms in my home, all of my bedrooms in my home, is that we have under the sink every time we go to the grocery store.
How much trash do you produce?
Hey, you know what? We're not one of them who say, let's save the environment. No, you're right. Wherever the trash can is, we have obviously the one big one in the kitchen, and the rest of them are the small little trash bins with the plastic bags in there as the trash bag. And to me, that's a little more environmentally sound than buying a whole bunch of trash bags that are really thick that aren't going to decompose. And then you know what? We're saving money as well. Sean, that's a great point. Appreciate it very much. I'll sneak in one more here before this. Totally isn't what I brought you in here to talk about, but everybody wants to talk about it. So I think this is a really fun topic to discuss.
One more. I got news to do, dude.
You got news and stuff. Let's go back to it. Line number 2 here. Good morning. What's your name?
Hello.
Hey,
what's going on?
I like the paper bags because I like to use them for making sugar popcorn.
Ooh,
see there?
Sugar popcorn.
Now, and here's the other thing.
They're reusable. After you bring them home from Dillon's, you can use them and make popcorn with them.
Yeah, until you put in like a bottle of whiskey and then it rips and then you got to go get a new one.
Dude,
and,
come on.
Come on. When you walk out of the grocery store with a brown paper bag, doesn't it look like your brown paper bagging it for the day? Come on.
And here's another thing, too, is all this talk about the plastic bags in the little trash receptacles, like in the bathroom or the one you have next to the nightstand, things like that. You can use paper bags for that, too.
Yeah.
They stand up nicely in there.
Yeah.
And
paper's the way to go.
Paper's the way to go.
There you go.
All right.
There
Appreciate
you go.
it very much.
Let's end on that note.
We got to take a break here, wrapping up hour number 2. Totally not what I wanted to bring you in here for, but we may have to try and do it later. It's okay.
No, you just wanted to bring me in here and bag on me. And I get it.
See,
I get it. I get that a lot.
There it is. This is the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Great conversation, great phone calls. We love it. Let's keep it rolling. 316-721-8255. Listener Bill on Facebook. Don't forget Costco and Sam's. They both use old boxes as well. That is a great point. Many of the stores are doing that. Don't even worry about purchasing the plastic bags or the paper bags or anything. Like Aldi's, like Costco, like Sam's, you just do it in bulk. You do it in the boxes. Aldi's, I think, was the first one that really started doing that. It's like, you know what? We're going to keep things cheap. Not even going to buy these things. Don't worry about the bags. Here's just the old box. You empty the product from the box, and then you can use the box to store it into to carry it out to your car, and then everything's just free float, and you take it home, and it's just ready to be unpacked. So kind of an interesting concept. But again, do you support the difference? Again, there's a big difference between the company saying we're going to phase out plastic bags and the government saying we don't want you to have plastic bags, we're going to ban them as a city. Kind of an interesting difference there. We got about a minute left before the top of the hour, but let's sneak in one more phone call here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name? Hello. Go. I guess we lost him. All right, give me a call back. We want to hear from you. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. Top of the hour news coming up in just a minute. When we come back in hour 3, we do have a guest, Matthew Hennessey. He's going to be, he's the author of the book 0 Hour for Gen X, about the millennial generation, Gen X, and the baby boomers, and where we all fit in. The millennials, of course, the ones with some of the issues, many of them actually starting this whole let's have the cities and the government start enforcing things like this. I just don't get why we always turn towards the government for our answers. Why do we do that? I don't get it. I never understood that. Never get that. We're looking towards banning plastic bags. In California, they banned plastic straws, so you can have the metal straw in a plastic container, so you can open up the plastic container and throw that away, and then you can use the metal straw because you can't use the plastic straw because, the plastic's really bad. So it makes total sense, but we always look towards the government for those answers as opposed to looking towards the private sector where the things are supposed to be when we actually look at solutions. The private sector. Capitalism. Free market capitalism. Where would we be without it? This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 3, The Voice of Reason, coming up. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
These are the ones that are trying to get illegal aliens to be able to vote in our elections. This is the party trying to get people who are actually incarcerated at the time to actually vote. This is the same party that doesn't want voter ID laws, and now they're saying, the county's missed it by a day. Sorry, you can't get those voted. You got to be removed off the ballots. So you want them to be able to vote. You just don't want them to be able to sign a petition to get one of your opponents on the ballot as a candidate.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about.
Don't get fooled again.
Welcome into the Voice of Reason, our number 3, the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. On the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting as well on TV, KGPT TV channel 2610 on Facebook Live as well, facebook.com/1480KQAM. We're just all over the place. You can't get away right here on a Friday. It is a free-for-all Friday. Let's make it happen. As usual, that means today it's up to you, whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you. We had a fun conversation last hour. Let's keep it rolling today on a free-for-all Friday. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. Really anything. I am your political therapist. Let's work through it together. Let's break down what's really bothering you. That's all right. I do want to shift gears just for a minute. We'll go back to the trash bag issue in a bit, but only our generation, only our generation would say, hey, let's have government try to enforce and ban plastic bags because we don't want them to be here because they're really scary and really bad and whatever else they're advocating for. So only our generation would do that, which is what I want to talk about for a second. Now, I'm part of the millennial generation. And sometimes I feel very bad for being part of that millennial generation. I don't know if it's the majority or the minority. It's a very loud, outspoken sect of the millennial generation that does some really absurd things. Who else would have the idea of let's challenge people to eat Tide Pods? Let's challenge people to put their arms on burners. Let's challenge people to snort condoms through their nose. This is the ridiculousness of this generation. This is the generation that's coming out and saying it's okay to kneel during the national anthem, and it's not about the national anthem, right? This is the generation that's saying we need to apologize for everything that we are as a nation. And, oh, by the way, anybody that's of a certain skin color is racist. Anybody that has a certain amount of wealth is racist. Everybody that, and by the way, you should just apologize wherever you are. And to talk a little bit about that and more, our next guest I'm really excited to have on the program with us. He is an associate editor of editorial features with the Wall Street Journal. Also, his latest book, 0 Hour for Gen X, which millennials, if you're curious, a book is a really, really long tweet, and you can have it that way. But 0 Hour for Gen X, How the Last Adult Generation Can Save America from Millennials. Matthew Hennessey is on the line with us here. Matthew, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. My book is, in fact, long for a tweet, but it's not that long. It's not that long for a book. I just want to point that out.
See, well, it is, and it's a nice thin book. It's a nice small book. We have a copy here that we're going to give away, and we appreciate that. But you're right. I mean, I don't know. Are millennials that are on that other side that like a lot of tweeting, do they read books still? I don't know.
They do when they're made to. Of course, I want to say that, look, there are 80 million millennials, so all of the bad characteristics and habits and the crazy stuff that you just talked about, of course, not everybody is doing those things. And, of course, in the olden times, right, back before the Internet came along, kids did stupid stuff, of course. The difference was we didn't film it all and share it with however many millions or hundreds of thousands of people we could share it with through the Internet, through YouTube and Twitter and social media and all that stuff. So the thrust of my book is that something very essential has changed. I'm worried about it. I think that people my age are worried about it. I think people who are, I don't know exactly how old you are, but most millennials I talk to don't seem that worried about it.
Well, that is true, and I'm 29, so I think on the spectrum, I'm on the upper end of the millennial generation. I don't know where exactly that's.
No, not really.
Is.
Unfortunately, the millennial generation is getting old. This is what happens. It's a very large cohort, the largest cohort of Americans ever, even larger than the baby boom. Now, I don't know how much you know about the baby boom, but let's just say they had a big impact on this country, and they still are. They're still having a big impact, and not all of it has been positive. I certainly count most of it on balance as being kind of negative. They went to war on American institutions, and they never found a single traditional way of doing things that they didn't think needed to be reformed, and they wanted that reform now. They did not want to wait for decades to go by. So a very disruptive group, the baby boom, and there was about 75 million of them. When the counting is done, there should be 80 million or more millennials, and they share a lot of the same kind of traits. They're very impatient, and I think that is a virtue of having grown up with the Internet at their fingertips.
Sure.
No previous American generation has had that. I didn't have Google when I was in high school. I was forced to be out of touch with my parents for very long stretches of time, as every previous generation of Americans was. Millennials, unfortunately, my thesis is that as a result of that constant connectivity and that ability to instantly solve problems and to have questions answered instantly and to get gratification on almost anything instantly, has created a generation of people who are very impatient with problems that can't be solved instantly, and so are vulnerable to utopian schemes and promises.
Well, and you're absolutely right, and you bring up a lot of things there, as you mentioned. I mean, we used to do stupid stuff beforehand, but we used to be outside doing them. And hey, I bet you can't jump off this three-story, this jump out of this tree sort of thing, as opposed to saying, hey, can you eat a Tide Pod? And you're right, we put it on social media. What really bothers me. And I'm not the biggest social media thing. I do it for the show on Facebook. I hate Twitter because Twitter drives me nuts because you can't have the elongated explanation for something because you have to fit it in the 130 characters or whatever it is, and it drives me nuts. But today, You see something on the street, you see so many videos of people getting into street brawls or people that are going after one another or bullies, and instead of actually doing something about it, it's, oh, hey, let me be the first one to record it on a Facebook live feed and see how many people can watch it about how terrible whatever's going on, instead of actually doing something about it. And it's about the numbers, it's about the hits, it's about getting the publicity, it's about doing the stupid little fish lips as you do the selfie, because we like to take pictures of ourselves doing lots of absolutely nothing just to have people look at it.
Andy, if you go to a concert or to a ball game anymore, about half the people that you'll encounter there are filming the thing to post on their social media. So and I want to point out that I'm not totally immune to this. People who are my age are not totally immune to this. In fact, part of the reason that the main reason that I wrote the book was because I could feel some of that digital addiction happening in my own life. I could feel myself, like on the weekends, constantly wondering whether I was getting work emails. And in times when I was trying to be present with my kids, I was distracted by my phone. I was looking at my phone at the breakfast table. First thing in the morning, phone. Last thing at night before I went to bed, phone. I saw all that happening to me, and I wanted to see if there was a way for me to undo it. And in talking to my friends who are roughly in their 40s and early 50s like me, I sense that there was a tremendous amount of anxiety about this, and that there's a growing sense that we're a little bit out of control here, and that this whole program has moved a little faster and a little farther than anybody expected it to. And what we've been learning lately is that these big shots and these kingpins out in Silicon Valley who control and have penetrated so much of our lives, personally, professionally, romantically, right? People meet their dates online anymore. They've gotten so deep, they got their claws so deep into us so quickly, and there's not a whole lot of democratic accountability there. We can vote with our credit cards. We don't have to buy their products. We don't have to use their services. But Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and these types of guys have been made extremely wealthy, and they have accumulated an extremely concentrated form of power that's, if it's not unique in human history, it's close to being the most powerful industry that's ever been seen on this earth. And we don't have any real way to stop them from doing the things that they want to do. And they have a lot of things they want to do, and we're not being consulted about it. So you're going to have a toaster very soon that can talk to the internet for some reason. Your car will be a self-driving car, even if you don't want it to be. These are the kinds of things that we go along with blindly from step to step because they're kind of fun and they're very futuristic, and we're wowed by all the bells and whistles and the shiny toys. They're very attractive, and we want the newest and the latest. It's kind of human nature. But then you find yourself out pretty far from where you started, and you can't find your way back, and you start to wonder if maybe the whole deal didn't work out as well for you as you thought it was going to.
Well, and here's the question. Let's look at it from the political standpoint here, is that this generation, the ones that are very outspoken are kind of the Bernie Sandersites, the socialist revolution. We hate capitalism. We hate the people that have more than us. We hate the people that are very rich or very wealthy, and we're built on the backs of slaves and all this other garbage that they teach nowadays with the Common Core education. What these activists, let's put it that way, speak out on, that have a very loud voice. They try to be the rebels, as you mentioned, the baby boomers and the other generations have done, with going after the establishment, going after the system, and trying to change it for the better to bring it back down to the power of the people. These individuals are the quote-unquote rebels that are embracing the big government establishment. And as you talk about technology, I mean, the big corporation that's telling you what to do on social media, that has the self-driving car, to where all the control is out of your hands, and they embrace that big technology where all the control's out of their hands. They don't even care about the government monitoring their emails anymore, sort of thing. How is this rebellion when you're embracing what's controlling you?
Well, every generation is going to kind of swing in the opposite direction of the one that came before. You saw that with Generation X, although it doesn't get discussed very much. But we are temperamentally sort of more conservative, maybe a little quieter, maybe a little more melancholy than the exuberant Woodstock generation, which wanted to burn it all down and build it up again fresh. So we kind of went the other way. Millennials could be reacting against us, for all I know, and they're swinging in a more radical direction. But here's one thing I want to point out. I was raised in the 1980s. One thing that, there was a lot obviously going on in the 1980s, but one thing that doesn't get discussed very much is that it was the tail end of the Cold War. So as a kid in the 1980s, you could be in no doubt, whether your parents were Democrats or Republicans, that there were good systems in the world, and there were not good systems in the world. There were bad systems in the world, and that we were on the side of the good guys. And what we saw with our own eyes was that the good guys won. The wall fell. The Soviet Union collapsed. Freedom was on the march. There was countries all across Central and Eastern Europe that were throwing off the chains of communism, embracing democracy and capitalism, and one man, one vote, and freedom and liberty was on the march. And it was glorious to see. We've taken that attitude with us through our lives, as you do. Mm-hmm. I don't think that millennials share that worldview. In fact, the data bear it out. 70% of millennials, meaning people under 30, at the time the survey was taken, disagreed with the statement that the United States was, quote, the greatest country in the world. Now, that's pretty shocking, and so you shouldn't be too surprised when a generation like that is ready and willing to embrace candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or any of the kind of, that is willing to put things like, our bedrock freedoms, such as our freedom of speech, on the negotiating table. It's if you look at it from the point of view of from the 30,000-foot view, the sort of the shifting, the big trends.
Sure.
The fall of communism during your lifetime and the triumph of democracy and freedom is something that you are not going to simply forget when you become 40 or 50 years old. That's going to stick with you. A movie like Red Dawn or The Hunt for Red October or Rocky IV, where the good guys were against the bad guys. I mean, we drank that stuff from the fire hose.
Well, and it was okay to actually say there was a good guy and a bad guy, not just two people with differing opinions that we just need to trash both of them, sort of thing. I mean, that's
let me also point this out. The millennials are just a product of their time. Okay, so they were raised largely in the 2000s, and the 2000s were a turbulent era, and nothing was clear really in our politics at those times. The Iraq War was viewed by the millennials as a offense against decency. They tell me, and I know that there are Republicans and Democrats in every generation, they tell me that the Bush administration, as you would when you're a teenager, seemed to them like one long ballet of incompetence. Katrina, then you had financial collapse. They're a very pessimistic generation about the system that they were raised in. Now, that could be a function of the educational system letting them down. It probably is to a large degree, but they're also a product of their environment, and the environment in the last 15 years or 10 years or the last 5 years hasn't been the healthiest. I think we can all agree on that.
Absolutely. We're talking with Matthew Hennessey, Associate Editor of Editorial Features for the Wall Street Journal, also his latest book, 0 Hour for Gen X. We're running short on time, but I got to ask, what can we do with this generation? As you mentioned, there's a lot of factors that played against my generation to make them feel or do the things that they do. What can we do? Is it too late? Are we too old for the parental side to kind of come back and try and straighten them up? Is it because of parental issues where maybe some of this guy kind of went sideways? And do you think that just by my generation beginning to grow up and have families and start our own thing, that we will autocorrect ourselves, or maybe technology corrupted us for life? I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that question. I hope that all is not lost. I'm trying to raise my kids in a slightly more analog, free-rangey kind of way than I think you were raised. I don't know how you were raised, Andy, but you know what I mean. People of your generation. I will say this. I do think that among millennials, broadly, there is a kind of a hunger for a more authentic way of living, a slower pace of life, a more connected, a more face-to-face, handshake, eye contact world. You see it in the kind of hobbies that they adopt. Things like vinyl records and making their own pickles and good coffee, like really awesome coffee and locally grown tomatoes and all that kind of stuff.
The microbrews, yeah.
Microbrews. Some of it's phony. Some of it's just a put on, okay? But some of it, I think, betrays this real longing for a different to get back something to get something that they never had an option to choose because they were raised with this gigantic internet brain thing governing all of their interactions. And so there's hope. I have to think there's hope. I'm an 80s kid. So I'm always ready to hear the music swell and to see Rocky run up the steps and and to wave that flag.
Well,
so,
see,
I don't give up hope.
And with my parents, I mean, I did the same thing. I grew up pretty much living in the 80s myself, even though I really didn't. And I didn't have a cell phone until I was in high school. I got the flip phone just when I went on sporting events for school, and that's about it. And I'm going to do the same with my daughter. She's not going to be one of those that I see now, the first graders walking around with the iPod plugged into her head, playing on the notepad with all her electronic. She's not going to do that. And
all I can say, Andy, is good luck. It's one thing in the abstract. It's a much different battle when you're getting punched in the face. You know what I mean?
That is very true. Matthew Hennessey with the Wall Street Journal. 0 Hour for Gen X is the book. Matthew, I really appreciate you coming on the show, my friend. It's a great conversation. I like to have it, being that I am part of that millennial generation trying to change what we actually like to stand for. So I really appreciate you. We got to get you back on the show again soon.
I'll be happy to. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it very much. That's Matthew Hennessey right there. 0 Hour for Gen X. We'll get a copy of the book out to you guys. Stay tuned. We'll give away a copy here in just a little bit. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker KQAM.
Coming up in just a minute. Thanks again to Matthew Hennessey coming on the show. 0 Hour for Gen X. Can we save all the destruction from the millennium? He brings up a really good point. I mean, growing up in the 90s and 2000s, what did we fight against? What did we really fight that had an ideological difference of that is the enemy? We try and show that, but yet some just don't get that. We've got some phone calls on the line. Don't go anywhere. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. It's open lines to you for the rest of the program. As soon as we come back here on The Voice of Reason, it is a pre-Friday celebration. Let's have some fun today. What do you say?
How bizarre. How bizarre. How bizarre.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier, your personal political therapist. Give him a call at 721-TALK.
Welcome into The Voice of Reason. I am your personal political therapist as we roll along today on a Friday, a free-for-all Friday at that, meaning anything on your mind we can discuss. And we've had some fun doing it today. Welcome in 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, you're more than welcome to do so. Phone lines are lighting up, and let's go right to them today. 36 minutes past the hour on your Friday on the way to work this morning. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Andy, it's John the Libertarian.
John the Libertarian. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. That segment was great. It was not what I was expecting from him. So thanks for having him on. That was really fun to listen to.
Absolutely. He's a great one. We'll get him back on the show again.
Good. I'll listen to him again anytime. Plastic bags, man. I just don't believe that these things won't biodegrade for thousands of years because I can't get one of them home without busting open from the grocery store.
See, that's what I'm talking about. But
this new Kroger announcement is so perfect because, all of our liberal friends are always telling us that if you want something done for the environment, you want something done for social causes, you have to rely on the government. Mm-hmm. And I've always argued that libertarians, conservatives will argue that no, if it's something important enough,
right,
if it's something that the people really care enough about it, that the businesses will listen from an economic standpoint, not necessarily from some altruistic idea, but they don't want to lose customers, so they'll say, okay, we'll ban the plastic bags if that makes you happy. And I think it's a good move for Kroger. It's going to be an inconvenience for me because my wife and I use those plastic bags for everything.
Right.
But I get it. They're responding to what the customers want, and that's the way that the market should work.
I completely agree, and that's the point that I've been trying to make. I mean, if you allow the private market to fix the issues, it will fix the issues for the largest sum of consumers that can possibly be taken care of in the private sector. And whether you're talking about the consumer that says, I don't want plastic bags anymore for groceries, or whether it's the healthcare system saying, the price is way too expensive for my health insurance for the family, and I can't afford it, and I need to find a cheaper plan. If you have competition in the market, If you have someone else that says, you know what, I'm going to do that because that's what the consumer wants and the consumer's going to come to me because I did that, then you're going to win in the private market. The government can never be able to force a market to go one way or another and expect it to be an outcome that's beneficial for everybody.
Right, you're absolutely right. Just like with solar power and wind energy, the solar panels can get so much better as technology improves. But because the government is pumping so many subsidies into those companies, they're going to continue to put out a shoddy product because they don't have any economic incentive to improve.
Exactly.
They're getting paid regardless.
Exactly.
And you mentioned healthcare. Just last year, Berkshire Hathaway, Amazon, and I can't remember the third company, but huge conglomerates with millions of employees, they are going to be putting out next year or by 2020 their own healthcare coverage and service. And that is possibly the wave of the future, and it's because of it, they just can't rely on government to do it right.
That's a really great point, John the Libertarian. I appreciate the call, my friend. You're right, and especially when it comes to the healthcare, I think that we're going to see a lot of different opportunities that come out in the private market again. That's going to be beneficial for consumers. Whether it is like you mentioned, like the companies coming out with their own healthcare plans and healthcare insurance companies. Maybe they freelance it to another insurance company that's kind of private, just specifically for them. Whether it's like what we see here in Kansas and in Wichita with some of the clinics, to where you just pay the monthly membership due for the clinic, and then you get you get the free screening, you get the checkups, you get everything like that, you get the maybe even discounts. I don't even know how it works, discounts on pharmaceuticals or any issues like that, and you start going to privatize club membership that way. One way or another, the private market will set it. You're not going to believe in. I just saw a poll earlier this morning that I didn't even talk about. I didn't want to talk about it today. But again, us needing to recorrect some of these polls. The latest poll from CNBC, 70% of Americans, according to this poll, believe in Medicare for all. 70% believe in this Medicare for all, as opposed to, let's go back to the privatization. See, we've been brainwashed that the private market didn't work, the private market failed, now we got to rely on the government, when that's not the case. The government got involved with the private market, it messed it up, and now they're saying let us take over the rest of it and we'll correct it. That's not the way it works. Privatize, let the private market fix it, let the free market actually fix the issues, and guess what? You'll find plans that are economical for the consumer, where they can afford it for the family, where 98% of Americans can actually afford the plans, and then we can address the 2%. Because the bell curve shows that the free market will always set market rates at the price that the majority of consumers can actually afford. Then we can look at the 2%. But it's better than saying, 40% of people can't afford it, 50% of people can't afford it, because that's the government that messed it up. I'm really hoping this Kroger issue with the grocery bags and the plastic bags isn't from government pushing them to do this and them trying to do it, offsetting it when they're not prepared to do so. If they do it on their own, and if they say, you know what, that's a business decision we want to make for the consumers, and we want to do it because of the consumers. We want to do it economically. We want to do it where we're not going to adjust our prices at all, and it's going to be beneficial for the environment. It's going to be beneficial for the company. It's going to be beneficial for the consumer. If that's the purpose of this, then all the power to them, and I support it 110%. I don't like it because I like my plastic bags, but I support them. Instead of the government saying, we're going to make you take away those. It's kind of like the auto industry, where the government said, yeah, you're going to make environmentally friendly cars where you have to have the eco test on there. Are we ready for that? Yeah, but you better start doing electric cars, and each different, whether it's Ford, whether it's Dodge, whether it's Chevy, all of you better start coming out with eco-friendly cars to where they pass emissions tests and you get like 40 miles of the gallon. And if you don't, then you're not allowed to manufacture. That is a perfect example of forcing the market to do something that it's not ready to do. The private market, the private sector, the free market system can actually set that when it's ready to do so, when the consumers are ready to do so. 316-721-8255, line number 2. Let's go back to the phones here. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Andy. It's Ron.
Ron, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Good conversations going this morning.
Thank you, yeah.
I worked out on the left coast for several years, and Kroger has bought up basically almost all the market, the grocery market on the left coast, okay? Mm-hmm. And the biggest one being Fred Meyer's up there in Washington State. Well, Fred Meyer's, you could put 10 Dillons inside of a Fred Meyer's grocery store up there, or store, because they sell appliances, that's small appliances, refrigerators, freezers, stoves, furniture, jewelry. It's a one-stop, and that's where Kroger wants to be, is they want to be that one-stop, and that's a good business decision. I mean, I'm not knocking that, okay? And then you go down to California, and they bought out all of the Ralphs down there, which was the big grocery chain down there in California. What they're afraid of now is because of what's going on the left coast with the straws and all this other stuff, is these people are going to start, these crazy yahoos from the left coast are going to start protesting their stores and hurting their business. Okay? So this is a PR thing more than anything. Is, hey, left coast, look, we're not only, placating you and saying we're all in on this, excuse me, on this echo deal with you guys. We're going to do this store-wide all over the country, But the thing of it is, they've got to show the consumer what's the benefit for us. And right now, the benefit is not, I'm going to pay $2 or $3 for a bag to bag my groceries up.
Right. And as you mentioned, you mentioned it right. I mean, it's a PR tactic, and 90% of what businesses do are because of PR tactics to be able to get consumers. And something like this, I mean, they say, oh, it's for the environment. The environment may be an aspect, and it's kind of the icing on the cake for them, but they're not making a decision like this for the environment. They're doing it because the consumer that's buying their product wants to save the environment, and therefore they're saying, we're going to save the environment, come to the store and buy our stuff because we're going to try and start weeding out the plastic bags. And you know what? I don't care what their intentions are, whether it's good or bad, as long as they do what the consumer wants. It's not going to affect the bill when we go to the checkout line. I don't really care what their motive is at the end of the day. It really doesn't matter to me. As long as my grocery price does not go up because they jacked the prices up for their goods because they started coming out with different types of bags that aren't plastic that are more expensive, and then they have a more expensive bottom line at the end of the day, then I don't have a problem with it. If they are able to maintain the same price for the goods that they have, or maybe they go like the Aldi style and you can have the option to buy the cloth bag, or you can just use the boxes and they don't even have to purchase bags at all, and then they can even lower their prices a little bit because they have a less expense they have to worry about, then you know what? At the end of the day, I don't care. It was their decision. I'll be happy with that as long as the price goes up and they see that as a business making business decisions.
Well, my biggest problem with all this is those minority of yahoos out there in California, those tree huggers and all those other idiots out there, is right now because our country inside these cities will not take care of these protesters when they're out there tearing up, destroying stuff. And that's what businesses worry about, is them showing up and harming their business and everything else. Now, that's my biggest worry, is those yahoos. We have got to get control of these idiots that's out, Antifa and all these other ones, and get them thrown in jail. They need to go to jail when they show up in masks and they won't take their masks off and they're harming people and stuff.
Well, I mean, they're the ideologues. You're right. I mean, they're the ideologues that not only saying, that's great the business is wanting to do a business decision like this, but you shouldn't do it for the wrong intention of gaining customers. You should do it because you really, really feel passionate about it. So you're doing it for the wrong cause, which means it's still, even though you're doing the right thing, it's for a bad cause, and therefore we still hate you. And they're the idealists that want you to not only enjoy it, or not only do it, but I want you to enjoy it while you're doing it, sort of thing. And you're still going to get the progressives that no matter what the business does, they're still evil, and therefore the government still needs to come down and crack the whip on them. And that's what they want.
And on the recycling, the one guy talked about how it biodegrades on the plastic.
Yes.
Over on Clark, I recycle, and they do take plastic bags there and recycle.
Sure.
So, hey, Andy, you have a great weekend, and thanks for program.
Hey, love it, Ron. Appreciate it very much. Enjoy the weekend yourself. 316-728-8255. You're right. We have, look, again, the market craziness being able to offset itself with whatever we're looking forward to. It is the product that comes out, the product that may not be good for the environment that some like, so we create recycling places. And whether if it is a plastic bag that can be recycled, then we recycle it, and let's invest in recycling. If it's too thin and it's been recycled 20 times and now it's a plastic bag that's going to just kind of wither away and just kind of dissolve on its own, then you know what do we have to worry about? And I know there's different types of plastic bags as well, but if it is one of those, then let's focus on those. Let's do those. Let's get rid of the plastic bag if it's the business's decision. However we end up doing it. But again, all of those options, all of those solutions, all of those ideas, none of them are from the government. I know, progressives, listen up. Millennials, listen up. I know it's a very difficult thing for you to understand sometimes. The government is not the answer. This is the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker KQAM.
Reason, 6 minutes to the top of the hour as we wrap up today on a Friday, a free-for-all Friday, also a fried chicken Friday. We love all the phone calls today, by the way. Great conversation, great stuff happening. We appreciate you. Got some more calls on the line. We'll try and sneak in here, but brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street, downtown Inman, just north of Hutch. Katie's back on the line with us as they are getting ready for their fried chicken Friday. Good morning, Katie. How are you today?
Good morning, Andy. Happy Fried Chicken Friday. I'm much better now.
Hey, feeling good, feeling good. It's a Friday, and you guys kind of had the strategy and the game plan for the day, and it's moving along smoothly.
Yeah, now it is. It was a little bit rocky first thing this morning, but we're back on track now. So we'll have
it's a Friday, so that's okay.
It kind of snuck up on me this week, and you know how I always say that every day leads to Friday, and this week I had like no other days. It seems like so. Anyway,
went from Friday to Friday. It's all right. Well, you guys, it's a big day for you guys there. Of course, you have your big buffet at lunchtime, 11 to 1. Your dinner buffet from 5 to 8 o'clock tonight. You got the fried chicken. You got the roast beef. What else is going to be on the slate for you today?
Today, okay, so we are having what's called a beef tamale skillet. So that's got the ground beef, it's got corn, cheese, salsa, and then it's got like green peppers and onions mixed all together, and then we cook that up in the skillet, throw some more cheese on it, and add some corn chips, some homemade corn tortillas that we cut in strips, and then fry them up and throw them in on top. So that's what we're having that. And then a chicken cordon bleu casserole, which is chicken and ham, and then like I said earlier today, saucy stuff.
Sure.
And then,
I like that.
And then it's got Swiss cheese because cordon bleu's got Swiss cheese, and then a breadcrumb topping. So we're having that, and then chicken and noodles, which we haven't had. I mean, I know it's like stupid because it's going to be one of the hottest days of the month of August today, and I decided last minute to have chicken noodles, which makes no sense at all. But run with it, okay? It's going to taste great.
Yeah, but you know what? It's kind of the wonderful comfort food for a weekend, so that's okay.
Yeah, well, it was cold yesterday, I felt like, so.
Yeah, it was a little bit chilly the last couple of days, at least in the morning. So good. So that sounds like a great lineup of for the buffet stuff, and I kind of like it. The kind of the taco thing you got, the skillet thing. That sounds pretty yummy.
Yeah, it's going to be great to mix all together in a big gloppy mess with everything else. So.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Good. That's going to be all day long. That's going to be for both buffets. And, of course, as you mentioned, the roast beef for the dinner buffet tonight. The fried chicken all day long as well. That's going to be fantastic. Also, the pies. We cannot forget about the pies today. You get your free slice of pie for the afternoon from 5 to 8 o'clock tonight. What kind of pies do you have on slate?
Today we've got coconut, chocolate, sour cream raisin, custard, peach, pecan. We have a pecan pumpkin cheesecake and a pecan cheesecake caramel pie thing. I don't know what to call that. It looks good, so we're just going to go with that.
Just going to roll with it. It's going to be the mystery one there, yeah.
Right. It's got drizzle. It's got caramel drizzle on top, so everybody's going to love it.
I love it. Wheelbarrow sold separately as you walk out of the place because you're not going to be able to walk out after eating all of the food today. It is the Inman Harvest Cafe, the free slice of pie tonight. Make sure to get there. Start off your weekend the right way with that at Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street, downtown Inman. Give them a call, 620-585-6925, or online at inmanharvestcafe.com. Katie, you guys enjoy. Have fun today. It's going to be a heck of a ride on a free-for-all fried chicken Friday, and we'll talk again next Friday.
All right, thanks, Andy. We'll talk to you then.
Always a good time there, brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe. We're out of time, my friends. Sorry we didn't get to the last couple calls that were on hold. We'll start off again on Monday with this again. Really do appreciate all the phone calls. Love the conversation, love the discussion, and we'll get back into it on Monday. A lot of big news happening very quickly, stuff we didn't even get to. KU in the news again about guns and professors not liking them. Shocker. We'll talk about that on Monday and more. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM.